Okay, we're now with the first witness, Ms. Snips, and this is the cross-examination by Will. You want to start? If you can speak up so that they can hear you, Mike.
Good evening, Ms. Snips. First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming. My first question to you is, how long has Mr. Garcia worked for Flowers for Smiles?
A little over 3 years, right around 3 years.
Okay, and would you describe Mr. Garcia to be a good employee?
Overall, up until recently, yes.
Okay, so do you believe that when you say up till recently, are you referring to the events on October 28th?
For the most part, and right before that, there was a couple of things that were brought to our attention.
Okay, could you explain to me what happened on?
Excuse me, it's I was afraid it was the other side. You can continue.
Could you explain to me what happened on October 28th?
So we posted overtime that we were going to need our employees to work a few hours of overtime if they're getting into our busy season. So in order to keep up business, we needed more employees to work. He happened to be on that list of overtime work, and he brought it to my attention that he couldn't do it because of his other job, which prior to this, we hadn't discussed or said that it was an issue before, so I wasn't really sure of his circumstances and everything. And on the date mentioned, he just told me he would not be there, and that's against company policy.
Question: what notice was given prior to the overtime, like in length, and was this posted in a fairly accessible spot?
Yep, posted on a board for all employees to see.
And do employees routinely check this board?
Yep.
Okay.
Where most of our announcements are posted.
Okay. What typically happens to an employee who does not report to his shift?
They're different. For other employees that this has happened with, we really haven't had specific cases like this in the past. But employees that don't show up to work are obviously disciplined.
What does that discipline usually entail?
Depending on what their reasoning is, like they are late for work or are sick for some reason or have some general excuse like that, then it's a written up discipline or suspension for a couple days, whatever it is. Depends on the situation.
So generally they aren't terminated. Usually they're generally given some kind of warning.
If they have, depending on what the reasoning behind, it's different with every situation.
Did Mr. Garcia inform you that he would not work his mandatory overtime because he was waiting for his grievance to be filed? If so, what was your response to him?
He would not, when he mentioned that he wouldn't work his mandatory overtime due to the grievance?
Yes.
But that, just because he filed a grievance, we don't know what the outcome of that is going to be. So we can't say you can't work for that many days because who knows how long that grievance is going to take, and we can't.
Did you not take it that Mr. Garcia was informing you that he would not be present for his overtime shift?
That Mr. Garcia wasn't present for his overtime?
I'm sorry, then let me restate my question. Mr. Garcia, did you not feel that by him telling you he was waiting for his grievance to be settled over the new schedule, did you not take that as him informing you that he would not work his overtime, that he would just continue to work his scheduled work hours?
No, I did not assume that was what was going to take place.
Okay. In Section 6 of the CBA, it clearly states that discipline should be done in a corrective nature and that at least one warning shall be issued before termination. Excluding certain circumstances, why was Mr. Garcia terminated rather than receiving a warning?
Well, our warning for all employees, as stated prior, the announcement board, you're required to work that overtime. That's your warning. So every employee knows in much of our employee meetings and things like that, that's what's required of them. So us, as management and supervisors, display that as a pre-warning, you could say.
Okay. Have you had problems with Mr. Garcia? Any disciplinary issues in the past?
Nope. A couple hard to recall. Probably a couple parties, I think, is what I mentioned prior.
Has Mr. Garcia received a signed job description stating his hours to be worked?
Yes, every employee at our company has.
Okay. And is this?
I'm sorry. Can you state that question again?
Has Mr. Garcia ever received and signed a job description with the stated hours of work?
Yes, every employee. Yes.
My final question is, did Mr. Garcia explain to you his need to keep his second job in order to support his wife and 6 children?
Now, as mentioned previously, it's hard as a manager to get involved in everyone's personal lives. So when these types of situations come up, unless we need to have a meeting, if the employee requests such thing, a meeting or something to discuss it, then we'll sit down and listen to what their issues are. But you can't entertain every employee's personal issues because then you get into a sticky situation as a manager. So yes, I recall him mentioning it previously, but because it was not ever discussed formally, I didn't want to entertain it.
So at no point did you decide to have a formal meeting with Mr. Garcia?
It was never requested, so we just never did it.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
I just have a couple of questions, if that's okay for you. First of all, you said that you have progressive discipline. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your progressive discipline, typically, unless it's a flight or something like that, it's serious. What is the typical first step that you take?
A written warning.
Did Mr. Garcia receive a written warning in this situation?
I do not believe he did.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of this witness?
Can I make a statement?
No. Thank you. Okay, who will be the next witness? Thank you very much.
We would like to call the grievant, Mr. Jose Garcia.
Oh, just a minute. I'll go.